Hello, everyone, and welcome to Claris Community Live. This is the last episode of our Claris FileMaker 2025 launch party. So happy to see all of you here today, and I hope you've enjoyed our previous live streams. Today, it's my pleasure to welcome back to the live stream Rick Kalman, Vincenzo Menanno, and Clay Maeckel, our surprise guest today, to share a few more under the hood tidbits about FileMaker 2025. And as we get started, as always, please jump into our opening poll because we'd like to know a little bit more about you in the audience. And while you do that, I'll let all of our guests introduce themselves. So Vince, why don't you start?
Okay, thanks, Rosemary. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here to chat with both Clay and Rick. And I've been developing FileMaker solutions for a very, very long time. And I'm from Beezwax. And yeah, so really excited to talk about FileMaker 2025.
And Rick.
And I'm Rick Kalman, been at Claris or FileMaker for just shy of 25 years, and currently one of the platform evangelists for primarily focusing on FileMaker.
And Clay.
Yes, Clay Maeckel. I started at Apple in '86, transferred to Claris in like '87, then started working on FileMaker in '92, and then became employee of FileMaker, and now I'm back on Claris again. I don't know. But yeah, I'm the chief architect for the FileMaker product line.
Well, welcome everyone. It's good to have you all back as repeat guests. And Rick, why don't you get started? And while you do that, I'm going to go fix the problem I've heard reported with the Slido.
All right, so this is the rest of the story, if you will. This is the fourth in our series of the 2025 launch. Last week, you had Ronnie, Todd, and Wim covering the new AI scripts and functions and services. And then yesterday, Clay and Robert covered the Claris platform and Studio FileMaker integration. Today, we're going to talk about the other things that we have done in the platform. Just to let you know, there are over 120 enhancements in FileMaker 2025, and over 100 customer issues have been addressed. I would encourage you to definitely look at the rich release notes that are associated with that. So we're going to do an overview here, and so just really quick as a way of sort of positioning this release, our mission is the same, and it is to make technologies, regardless of what it is, accessible and approachable to developers so that you can leverage them in your business apps. And of course, that means that now you've got a lot of tools that you can use to leverage using AI with the data that you already have, and we continue to build out the larger platform as yesterday, so that you have a familiar tool set, and that's FileMaker, and that's what we're talking about today. But we continue to enhance that so you can unlock the future. So it continues to evolve, and you can solve, obviously a lot of problems with it, and as we keep evolving it. And of course, there's the resources and this great community of support. A couple of quotes that we've had for this release. Here's one from Klaus at Datamatics, and that says that one of his favorite improvements is Let's Encrypt. We'll talk about that today. How we enhanced that, made it available to all of the platforms that we support as well. Here's Howard Schlossberg talking about his favorite feature is the ability to avoid auto enter on replace field contents, and he's really looking forward, and of course go to list of records and how that will improve performance. And speaking of performance, we've got the quote from Hamza, who always does benchmarking in the real world, who came back and told us, oh my gosh, JSON parsing is so much faster, and we like to hear that because JSON is certainly becoming the workhorse for the platform. So what we're going to do, I'm going to introduce some capabilities that we've enhanced in the product, and then I have Vince here for color commentary, and I have Clay here for any insights under the hood, and I have some screenshots as well. So I'll start off with and let me tell you about a lot of what we did in FileMaker is what we refer to internally as developer quality of life enhancements. Essentially, things that give you more productivity or, in a way, more time back, right? And those are always appreciated. And typically, we get those from the community forum. We're constantly monitoring that and picking up. Of course, we get them from ETS. We get them from the ideas section on the community, and we get a lot of direct as well. So there's a lot in this release. We'll start out with the ability to fold, and I'll show some screenshots in a second. We've got
actually, Rick, before you dive in, I just want to share back some of the poll results from the opening poll. Now that it's working. Looks like about half of the audience has already started using FileMaker 2025. A little over half are using FileMaker 2024. And 20% still using FileMaker 2023, and 17% have at least one FileMaker 19 or earlier deployment. And then in the word cloud, for feature that you're most looking forward to using, a lot of too many to pick one, too many to name, but it looks like AI and JSON collapsed script parts are the leaders. Oh, and some bug fixes. So
great.
Take it away.
Okay, so I'll show screenshots of the first two in a second. They're rather straightforward, but I don't have a screenshot for JSON parse. And this was one of the things that Hans's quote was getting after. And maybe Vince or Clay, if you've got any comments on what we've been doing with JSON and how that's impacted performance and some of the enhancements we've made as well.
I have a quick just what to do slide that I'll bring up when you talk about it. So.
Yeah, why don't we start first talking about JSON parse, and then I'll show the screenshots of the other.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to,
yeah. So previously to this version, well, the first version of the JSON functions were parsing the text every time you went through the calc engine, every JSON function. Pretty quickly after that, we added a thread-based cache. So the last piece of JSON that was ever parsed, it would have the binary representation attached to each thread. So if there was still a calc being done on that thread, it would reuse that. And that sped things up quite a bit. But if you're going back and you're tearing a piece of JSON apart and having a bunch of different chunks, then you really have to organize your code to make sure that you were trying to use the same text of JSON in multiple calls. And if you swap back and forth, then they would have to start reparsing. So the big change in Pro 2025 is now that the parsed version of the JSON is hung on to the memory representation of when a field contents or variable contents is brought into memory. So it's always there. Once it's parsed for a particular variable or mainly variable or parameters getting passed around internally, it'll always be there. So if you keep doing multiple operations on that same bit of text, and even if you do like get a piece of an element of the JSON, it just pulls out that portion of the JSON representation and moves it over. So it doesn't even turn it back into text unless you actually do some type of operation where you want to display the text or look at the variable in the variable viewer and stuff like that. The big thing is that this binary representation is not saved to fields when they're stored in the FileMaker itself. So if you put the result of a JSON and you put JSON stuff into a field, well, the only thing stored in the FileMaker format is just the text again. So if you bring text out from a field, then it'll have to parse it the first time you go to a JSON function. Let me share this one slide. It's just kind of like my summary slide. If you want to see all the big details on this, when the Engage videos come out, you may want to view my session, and there's like a 10 or 20-minute talk about how all this works under the hood. Okay, Okay. So this is kind of like the last slide of my presentation. So this is like the worst way to use JSON, the better way to use a JSON, and the best way now in 2025. So as you notice in the first example at the top, it was like parsing name and putting it into a name one field, and then you go through and then talk about JSON2, and then go back to JSON1 and JSON2. So there, when we had the individual cache on the thread, this was parsing every time on all 4 of those calls. If you had in 2024, if you at least ordered it so that you did all your work on JSON1 and then all the work on JSON2, you would only parse things twice. But the best way to do now is there's a new JSON function called JSON parse. So what you want to do is when you have a large chunk of JSON that came in from insert from URL, or you brought it off disk, and before you start using it heavily, what you'll want to do is call JSON parse on it and put it into a variable. When you do the JSON parse, that's when the parsing is done. And then JSON1 and JSON2 in that portion will only have the binary representation. Well, actually, it'll have both in there. And then with the same number, however many different operations you do on JSON1 and JSON2 after that point, you'll never parse that same 2 megabyte chunk of JSON that you had. And then even the results from the get element in name1, name2, state1, and state2 will have the parsed versions too. So that's the big thing to do. It's I guess the one thing you'll probably want to avoid is just using JSON that's stored on fields over and over again. You'll want to bring them into a variable of some sort, whether it's global, script, or even calc variables. But that's the short of it. You can, once the video becomes available, you'll be able to see a lot more detail about that.
All right, I'll just add the video is available, and I've already put the link to it in the chat. I mean, there's just a couple questions about that before we move on. So first, is the parse JSON cleared when the script ends, or does it persist through the user session?
It persists. Well, when it's put as part of the variable, it persists as long as that variable is in existence. So if you close the window, then all your window-based variables go away. But as long as the window's open, it'll all be there. And script parameter results, yeah, it's passed. If it's a variable that you passed in there, the binary representation will follow that too. So parameters are the same as like variables.
Okay.
Yeah, it does help the set element call too. Yeah.
So I'm going to show quickly a couple of screenshots for the first 2 here, because a picture will be worth 1,000 words. Here is the collapsible scripts. You can sort of see that the arrows on the side, making it much more readable, and something, frankly, that developers have been asking for quite some time. We were able to do that in this release. Here's a screenshot of the ability to put your custom functions in folders now. We are aware of the desire for also to maintain some sort of sorting capability, so we'll definitely come back in this feature and enhance it in the future as well. So we heard that. So the next set of enhancements are go to list of records for script step, and I believe that you have a demo of this, Vince, and then the ability to add or remove objects in groups in FileMaker Pro without having to blow up the grouping and then reassemble it, which is very nice. And then we've got a new get text format PDF calculation function that is separate from AI, but certainly can be leveraged by AI, but the ability to pull text out of PDF documents. Vince, did you have a demo? Was this the one that you had a demo for?
Yeah, I do. Thanks, Rick. So let me share my screen and let me know. Oh, okay. So let me know if you see my
Yes.
screen.
Yes.
Okay. So this is actually available. This file is available as part of a blog post I did on this topic, and I believe Rosemary will probably post that, but it talks about two new features in 2025. One is a function, get record IDs from found set, and another is a script step, go to list of records. I've already gotten a lot of feedback from various people about how they're really enjoying this. And this is actually, apart from all the AI innovations and additions, this is a really sneaker feature. It's just got lots of really cool things that you can do with it. So let me share this one use case that I'm a teacher. I teach grade 6. So here's all my students in grade 6. There's 24 students. If I hide the status area, what we've been able to always do is we've been able to build these things that are called multi-selects. And so basically, just like the Finder, you can shift and click and select stuff. And this is happening with scripting. There's no magic. You could have done this before. But this is what's magical about these new features is that now we can transfer these IDs. And so like out of these 24 students, 10 of them are going on the camping trip. And so I can take those IDs that are listed here in a global field, and I can send those IDs to the server and recreate those records that I have selected. So so it creates an opportunity to create interfaces that are not just based on found sets, but based on selection groups within a found set. So again, if I open up this in a new window, I'm getting all those records that I have selected show up in another window. There's a lot of really interesting ways that the community, I'm sure, will discover and use this. But one thing I've come to understand is, first off, you don't need to have a relationship to create this, display of IDs, right? So I don't need to store those IDs and then say go to related records. Simply by having the list of IDs, I'm able to then transfer those and say go show me those record IDs on this layout. There's a lot more to talk about, but I'll leave you with one small thing here. Let me go open up the data viewer, and we'll open up here. Get record IDs, get record IDs from found set. There's 5 different types. So I'm looking at a window that has a small set of records. I can choose it to display a carriage return list of IDs. I can choose it to display it as a JSON representation, or as a JSON array of numbers, or as a range. So like if all your record IDs were consistent and you had a lot of them, basically it would be a range of IDs. And this is kind of stemming off of the way the snapshot link used to work. And the last one is a JSON range array as well. So I invite you to explore the blog post, and yeah, let me know if you find it exciting and useful. I think it's going to be a really great way to reduce some of the complexity that we have in our solutions.
Yeah, there's a few comments about highly useful, lovely, that's cool. I'm also seeing lots of cheers and reactions in the chat.
Cool.
All right. Here is a screenshot of the ability to group and ungroup, add things to group, remove things to groups without having to ungroup everything and bring it back together. A nice quality of life enhancement that should save people some time and some tedium. Here's a quick example of the new get text from PDF function, where you just point it to the container field where the PDF document is stored, and you can pull the text out of that and search on it. You can use it in AI and that sort of thing. Is there anything additional to say about this, Clay?
No, it's pretty straightforward. Sorry, I was like watching the other questions going by, but
yeah. So this is
add,
again. Okay,
I would add that the comment about AI is really impressive, because you can grab the text from a PDF and in your prompt right away ask a question of the text that's in the PDF, and that's really easy to do and a really great win. So really kudos on the way that's easy to pull off.
Yep.
There's one quick thing I just want to say is that you know, like this JSON improvement, the arrays of record IDs and this PDF stuff, all this was basically driven by the AI work we were doing. These are all things that some of the initial implementations were only in the AI portion of it, and then we were saying, hey, this would be useful for other things. So we're trying to pull out work that we're doing for the AI work and bring it up higher so people can use it for other functions other than AI.
Yeah, it's sort of like sending a man to the moon and getting Tang.
Yeah.
That's the side effect of AI. Obviously, you can leverage it in the rest of the platform, and I think that's fantastic. I love those features.
Yeah, before
okay.
you continue, there's a bunch of questions. But first, I just want to remind everybody, please send your questions to everyone and not just to the panelists. There's lots of other smart developers participating in the live stream, so they may be able to answer your question in the chat more quickly than we can get to it. So a couple questions on get test from PDF. First, is there not any way to actually OCR text from images? So if you have a physically scanned piece of paper, can you OCR natively in FileMaker?
The get live text works only on the Mac platform, right? So,
Yeah,
so there is
yeah.
a way to do that on the Mac platform because we're just taking advantage of the operating system to do that. So it does OCR basically, but I don't think. Yeah, we basically got that for free because of that. I'm not sure if we'll ever try to bring that over to Windows or not, but.
All right. And another question, what is returned if the container that you use get text from PDF on does not contain a PDF?
I believe you get blank, I think.
Okay, and then for the adding and moving objects from groups, does that group need to be named in order for that functionality to work?
It does not need to be named.
Okay. All right.
I see the answer is question mark you get back if you see that something not a PDF. Thanks, Brian.
Good to know. Thanks.
Now, we have begun to refresh the look and feel of FileMaker Pro, starting with macOS. When you first launch FileMaker 2025, FileMaker Pro 2025, you'll notice it looks a bit different. The home window has been redesigned. And then we've gone after the status toolbar, the iconography, the padding, and the fonts, just to clean up the look, make it a little bit more modern, beginning to go into the inspectors and have enhanced table view. And this is just the beginning of a multi-release effort as well. So here was a screenshot that we show with the new status toolbar on top and some of the cleaner look. Here is a look at the enhancements to table view and some of the controls that are now available when you set that up. And it got a lot of good kudos. I think Todd was saying that one of the sleepers is just the new functionality in table view. I don't know, Clay or Vince, if you have anything additional to say about any of this.
No, I mean it just it respects the system settings, so which is nice.
Yeah, basically one reason why it's being done on macOS is we're trying to follow like how the macOS displays tables in general. So we're trying to do that, but you can. I mean, it doesn't. You still have the choice of using the original table view if you don't, if you want that. So you have the choice of the new style or the old style.
Great. All right, let's move on to, we continue to enhance Let's Encrypt. In this release 1, it's now available across Mac, Windows, and Ubuntu. And we have removed the necessity of having to run the shell scripts that ship with this. It's now all done through the admin console and much more easy and straightforward to set up. I got a couple of screenshots here. If Vince or Clay want to say anything additional about that, but here is a look at the server admin console with the new option to request a Let's Encrypt certificate, and then what comes up when you do that. Any additional commentary, Clay or Vince?
The big requirement is still that your server has to be publicly accessible, because when Let's Encrypt wants to verify that your server is at that location, it has to be able to open an HTTP request to your server. So even if you're just using FileMaker, if you're just using the port, 4003, sorry, you still need to open up the HTTP ports so that the Let's Encrypt can interrogate your web server too. So.
Yeah, and I'll add, we have in the works a new FileMaker Server Expert course for Claris Academy that does a deep dive into the new Let's Encrypt functionality, and that should be available in early August.
And just an FYI, last Friday on Rich Carlton's FM Live TV, Jacob Taylor did an entire session on Let's Encrypt, and all of those are recorded and available on YouTube and other sources as well. So it'd be worth seeing. All right, what did we do in WebDirect? So a couple of things here. I got screenshots for all of this. We have the ability now to right-click and get a context menu in WebDirect. We have a new and much easier and more discoverable way to customize the home page. And again, this is done through the admin console of Server. And probably one of the big sleepers is, we all know customers who use WebDirect and hit the back button and lose their session, maybe lose their data, maybe contact you. So now we bring up a warning. So before we talk about these in detail, I'll just show you some screenshots here. Here's an example. This is a WebDirect layout with a right click and bringing up a context menu. Depending upon the data, you'll get or the object type, you'll get a different set of options. Here is the screenshot of, in the connectors tab of the FileMaker admin console, the ability to go in and customize the home page versus the old way where you had to go find the folder and futz around with it. And we take care of a lot of the behind the scenes things that were required before. And then here's just an example of what happens if you hit the back button in WebD, and now we pop up leveraging JSON. And people have tried to solve this. We just built it right in, and at least warns the person, are you sure you want to go? You're gonna lose your session. So Vince or Clay, anything in addition to say about these three?
This is great. I know a lot of my colleagues, they build systems for WebDirect, so they're really looking forward to these enhancements.
So there is a question about SSL, a couple about SSL certificates. First, are we likely to support any other certificate issuers besides Let's Encrypt as part of the server automation?
I think the main reason we did Let's Encrypt first is because it's free. So that's everyone likes free. Whether we're going to do the Acme endpoints and stuff like that, it's under consideration, but we were trying to get the Let's Encrypt stuff up to speed and get it all into the UI and make that working. But that's always something that we can work on in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And by the nature of Let's Encrypt, you really need automation because you renew that thing every 90 days and earlier. And so we take care of all of that, and it's just really graceful and can't be free.
Yep. And the follow-up question to what you just said, Rick, about the automation for renewals every 90 days, with SSL certificate life shortening to 49 days in the future, will we be able to bring automation to other certificate types? Or what will we do to ease the pain for maintaining that?
I mean, there are the admin APIs, so I'm sure people will probably write some scripts to help FileMaker developers out there. But when at the point where we make it part of the server product itself is something that we are looking at.
And also, there's a few requests about the custom homepage. First question is there a deep dive or how-to demo for this? Has anyone spotted one yet out in the community?
Not. I've seen, obviously there was an internal demo when we were enabling our support to go through this, but I haven't yet seen anything public about this.
Okay.
But it's pretty nifty enhancement though.
I will make a note to forward this to our documentation team as a suggestion for an engineering blog deep dive. I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, for a lot of people, this may be uncovering the possibility that they weren't even aware that you could do this, and you can customize the generic. Otherwise, everyone gets what everyone gets for WebD out of the box. But this is a way to improve that. So yeah, little sleeper. All right, we did some things in Go as well. So we now support navigation, with keyboards if you're using keyboards with iOS devices. We now support hover state, and if you weren't aware that if you do have a Vision Pro, you can run FileMaker Go in Vision Pro. So one of the impetus there was, this is a way of when you're looking at something or pointing at something to know that it's the thing you're intending to do. So it sort of has that side effect as well. And then another interesting thing that I happen to like a lot is now we use the Files app to store the FileMaker Go apps, and it just makes it a lot easier to locate and find. So if you notice, there's a subtle difference in the icon for FileMaker Go. When you download it, there's now a 25 in that icon. And I've got a screenshot here of my my Files app on my iPhone, and now the FileMaker Go folder that comes along with it. And then within that folder on the right, you can see what's inside there. It's pretty nice enhancements. Anything additional, Clay or Vince, to say about any of these?
Yeah, the hover state. I mean, when we originally did Go, there was no point for hover state when it was just the iPhone, but we probably should have added it earlier for the iPad too, because hover will now work with your pencil. If you have an iPad with pencil, you'll be able to see hover state there too. But Go is pretty much unusable on, well, you got lucky if you were using it with the Vision OS, because you'd have to look at the button and hope it was the button to to click it. So that's really bringing it in to make it more useful for people that are using the pencils on the pad and Vision OS.
Does that bring any enhancements to accessibility?
I don't know whether it triggers. I guess I haven't tried the accessibility features on the pad and on Vision Pro, but I mean, we're hooking it into the operating system, so anything that wants that hover capabilities, the OSs will be able to take advantage of it on the pads and the Vision OS.
Okay.
And the other thing worth mentioning is of course we will support the latest OSs for FileMaker Go, iOS and iPad OS. All right. Miscellaneous, because remember I said there's 120 plus enhancements here, and so I wanted to talk about a few of these that may be easy to get missed, but I wanted to point them out. We have upgraded the tools and now bundle all of the command line tools with the server installer, and of course Vince Menanno is someone who takes advantage of these types of things. We have the ability now to have table comments that then we can leverage. The auto enter control, options control, is what the quote that Howard Schlossberg had mentioned. that he was excited about. And it's like, depending upon what it is you're doing, it's always amazes me what the variety of things that people appreciate, because it depends on the pain you're feeling for what you're doing. We did improve in the release of this. There was an issue with FileMaker 2024, and you could sometimes get your themes corrupted. And it was hard to correct. We prevented it from happening with a VREV, but then we went in to make sure that you can correct that corruption as well in 2025. And there is, and again, something that Vince is probably going to be taking advantage of, if not already, is the ability to include the details for analysis tools when you save as XML. And then just another mention that, there's 125 enhancements, there's over 100 customer issues. Those, I would encourage you. They're long, but they're pretty thorough. The release notes for FileMaker 2025 it's chock full of some good information. So, any comments on any one of these, Vince or Clay?
I just posted, there's one other item that's worth mentioning, Rick, and that is expanded the maximum length for insert text script step now to, I think that's 2.5 million or 25 million. Let's see, characters. Did I read that right? Let's see here. It gets too many zeros.
Yeah.
Looks like 25 million to me.
Yeah, or 250 million. Anyway, it's
A lot.
greatly expanded, and I think that has a lot to do with some of the AI capabilities as well. The table comments as well, probably AI
Yeah.
related.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, like I mentioned before. AI has been pushing a lot of these other little features, because I guess you can think of AI as like a developer that may not be as smart as our developers, so we need to give it more help. So.
Yeah, I want to add something. I'm seeing a lot of feature requests coming through in the chat. I'm not going to address those as questions, because this is not the right answer, the right audience, or to ask those questions of. But what I do promise to do is I will pull out all those feature requests and get them to the right product managers. So look for more information on that. There was a comment also I saw go by asking about script step documentation, especially for the AI functions and script steps. There was, as we've discussed, there was so much in this release. Our documentation team was working up until the last minute, writing documentation, then reviewing it, translating it into all of our supported languages. And so the promise I got from our director of that team earlier this week is that all of that documentation will be out probably by the end of July. So please do keep checking back for that documentation. It is coming and it is in the works. There was just too much to do in the time we had.
Hey, so Vince, as far as the XML, and if people aren't aware, Beezwax and Vince have announced that Inspector Pro 8 is now freely available. And are you taking advantage of any of this Inspector Pro, Vince?
Oh yeah, Rick. There's a lot of enhancements to the XML, and as Clay pointed out, even and when we were in Vienna, there's continued work going on under the umbrella of XML, and yes, we're taking advantage of almost everything that's been addressed, fixed, added. One thing that's really nice is this option that's been included. Kind of gives a dedicated output for analysis tools like FM Perception, and then base elements and Inspector Pro. It gives additional details that might not be needed when you're using the XML for, let's say, creating a patch or an update, etc. So there's really a concerted effort to continue pouring effort and time there, so which is really great. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, the goal is to eventually get rid of the old DDR report. We're trying to move everything over to save as XML. So we've been moving over features and things that were in the DDR stuff over. The next big thing that'll be coming along is, where you can just say, I want subsections of the XML, which you could do with the DDR, which you can't do with the save as XML. So basically, we want to get the save as XML up to parity and actually better than how the old XML used to work, and to be able to round trip it properly for going through the upgrade tool, so that you can actually start feeding all this XML back in and changing your databases.
And I want to give a shout out to Vince, who for well over a decade, probably closer to 2 decades, has directly been requesting both of myself and Clay to push this forward. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, and thank you, Vince, for making your tool available. How was the reception of that been so far?
It's been amazing. There's a lot of people very surprised about the announcement that it's free. Again, for us, it's something that we're really enjoying to make it freely available for everyone to use and to benefit. So we're really excited about it. I think one thing worth mentioning that I don't think was mentioned is that if you go into the file options, there's a new feature. Sorry, it's in the settings under layout, and I can share my screen
Sure.
really quickly if that's
Sure.
okay.
Yep.
So if you see here, if you go to the FileMaker settings, you'll see this option called Update Layouts when schema changes, right? And then in the past, if we remember, many times in the past, when you'd add a field to a table, it would automatically show up on your layout. And oftentimes, as a best practice, we would turn that feature off. But now there's this other checkbox that allows you to update layouts when the schema changes, and you can turn that off. That's the default behavior. And what that does is, like, if you go into the schema and you make a change to a field name, if you have that field on a layout, maybe you like the label is right next to it, it will update and change the label that that field is associated. And the byproduct of that is that it also updates the layout catalog, even though I haven't gone in to make a change to the layout. Behind the scenes, it would automatically update the layout catalog. And with my work with Inspector, where we're trying to document what got changed by who, this was a request in terms of, like, could we turn that off? Because it had also legacy behavior that wasn't really consistent, etc. So this is great now. So if you go into the schema and you delete a field, or you change a name of a field, it's not going to do this extra work to go across layouts and try to update those layouts with those changes.
Cool.
That's interesting. I want to share a quick Inspector story. I think I first met Vince at Macworld in Boston in the early 90s when I was still working for Harvard. And I remember talking to Vince and buying Inspector Pro on the spot at that event.
Cool.
I was just reminded of that today because I went to download it, and there's a question on your forum that says, how did you learn about Inspector Pro? So I had to share that.
And Vince has been making the circuit as well at the user groups, so he's getting the word out.
Yeah.
All right. So, last but not least, FileMaker Cloud enhancements. So FileMaker Cloud usually lags a month or two from the release of the main platform for FileMaker. It'll be coming in mid to late August. It will support the feature set for the most part, maybe not 100% of everything, but it'll be documented, any differences there. And there's some additional enhancements about support for local time zones, and some enhancements for scheduled maintenance, updates when the token expires, and that sort of thing. So that's coming down the pike, and that was the last slide I had. So we have, I think, some time for questions, Rosemary, as they come in.
Yep, I'm just going to share a couple comments. Update layouts when schema changes will be switched off for me right now. From Corrado, he's reporting an issue with the new version. I find problems with conditional formatting in the case of text descriptions in fields. And yes, we are aware of that problem. And I think the fix is already in development. And Hansa said, after 2 days of using FileMaker 2025, he has spotted how many times he no longer has to resize the column widths when he's using the custom function dialog.
Yeah, that is something that one of our teams has been going on, is slowly going through all the dialogues and trying to make sure everything is saved during them and stuff like that. I mean, we have like 350 dialogues or something like that, so it takes a while to go through. And unfortunately, our dialogues are like done with different technologies depending on what year it was written in. So, you know, we can't just make one change and everything automatically works. It's only like certain batches work as we make changes to them. So we're getting around to it.
Let's say the defined database dialog was always a little bit painful too, because that would always resize, and so now it sticks, and that's wonderful as well.
Yep, developer quality of life stuff. It's a real thing, and we are paying attention to it. And I hope it's obvious after these 4 sessions. And remember, there's a follow-up session for more Q&A with FM Live TV this afternoon. But the FileMaker platform is very much alive, very much being invested in, and frankly, a lot of new life has been breathed into it in this API era, and with AI now, really pushing it forward with some of the JSON capabilities. This isn't your father's Oldsmobile, if you ever remember that commercial. This product has evolved quite significantly in the 25 years I've been here, and it still excites me.
Yeah, Rick, I'd like to say a couple of other things about the script collapsing aspect. So if loops and transactions now can be collapsed. So if you have a very long script, what's great is when you collapse these parts, and if you have comments just above those sections, you can focus on the macro functionality of a script and kind of like take it all in. Even if a script is like, very, very long script, and you can collapse it and it all fits within a window. There's all kinds of other shortcuts to sub-collapse all the other steps within a collapse section. So there's a lot to explore there, but I think sometimes again, a quality of life improvement, but I think this also tends to be able to help the developers stay in the zone of understanding the code that they're working with, because oftentimes you go from macro to micro, and having the big picture and then zooming in and then zooming back out is really going to help developers when they review code or when they write code, etc.
Yep, good point.
Yeah, this is a question I don't know, Vince or Clay, if you can answer. Will updating the schema still cause sliders and tabs to reset to the default panel? I'm guessing that means for the other users in a network session.
Yeah, that part hasn't changed. When there's so many things that can change when the schema changes, like tables disappearing and stuff like that. When major schema changes are made, a notification is sent to all clients saying, well, you probably can't trust anything you have on the screen right now because a whole bunch of stuff changed. Relationships may have changed. The values of portals may need to be flushed completely. The notification there's one notification saying, hey, everything changed, and we don't go through and try to analyze the number. If you make a certain change, how many different things may be affected, because you don't know what each of the clients are doing. People already complain that we're too chatty on the network, so I doubt that's going to change anytime soon.
A question for you, Vince. Are there versions of Inspector Pro that work with prior FileMaker versions?
We have Inspector 7 that works up until version of FileMaker 19. And then version 8 worked with FileMaker 21.0. And now this version of Inspector 9 that we just released will only work with FileMaker 2025 or greater.
Hey, Vince, I noticed that you snuck in some AI stuff into Inspector Pro 8. Can you talk about what you're doing with AI?
Yeah, actually, when we were testing an ETS, at the last minute, we realized like, wow, this is going to be a really easy feature to add. So what we added was the ability. So we're already generating a textual description of the script. So we're representing the script textually, rather than we have access to the whole XML. And what we could have done is sent all the XML of a script to AI and asked it to generate a summary. But I think for us as humans to just digest what the script is doing, just like you look at it in script workspace to understand it. So we send the textual representation to AI, and then we ask for a summary, like a 1-sentence summary and a 1-paragraph summary. And then once we get that 1-paragraph summary, we also generate an embedding. And so we added 2 features. One is the ability to generate a summary of the script, and the other one is to be able to then generate those embeddings, and then we can search semantically on the meaning of your script. So those were added in Inspector 8, and that was, again, a very easy thing to add, just because Claris made it really easy for us to do. So if you haven't looked at a solution in years and you go back to it, looking at those summaries of a 300-line or 300-step script, can bring you back to, oh yeah, that's what that script is doing. Or if you inherit a solution that you've never worked on, reading the summaries can also give you insight into what the script is doing. So those were the 2 features that we added in 8.
Okay, and Vince, there's a couple questions about where people can find older versions of Inspector Pro. I just took a look at your website and I think it only shows Inspector Pro 9.
Let me get back with Russ and see, because I think when you download that, you also get links to the other versions, but I'll make sure that those are available and updated on the website.
All
And
right,
I've seen, like, someone asked whether there's going to be another 2025 release in the fall, and that usually is always true, because Apple just announced the new OS that they're having. We're waiting for it to stabilize, and sometimes they force us to make tweaks, based on what they're doing. And as we come across some issues and stuff like that, so I'm pretty sure there will be one, unless Tahoe tends to be exactly 100% compatible with everything we're currently doing, which has never really been true in the last few years. So there'll most likely be at least another release sometime. Though it won't occur until after Apple really finalizes Tahoe, because we wouldn't want to come out with something and then they have broken things even in release candidate builds on us. So we've been burnt before. So after Apple gets more stable on their OS release, then you'll probably expect something from us.
Yes, and there's a couple comments about when working with collapsed scripts in the script editor. So when you're in script workspace, someone observed that you cannot drag and drop a collapsed script to reorder it. You need to copy and paste that chunk of elements. Anyone have experience with that? I admit I haven't done a lot of scripting in FileMaker 2025 yet.
I'll just say I did see that mentioned in ETS. I don't know if it was addressed or not. So I guess, Clay, if you look at a script that's got an if and end if, and you collapse it and you select both parts and you want to drag it, I think it doesn't work.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't. My solutions tend to be a lot of scripts, a lot of smaller scripts. I tend to break things up into a lot of smaller chunks. So I don't have many large scripts. So I've never actually even used the collapse feature myself. So.
Hey, Clay, there's a last question here from Hansa about plugins being supported on the command line tools.
Oh, yeah, that's something else in all the command line tools. Now, if you've been doing migrations or updates or even trying to do DDR or the save as XML reports where you had used custom or used plugin functions, we now do load them into those command line tools, or there's an option to be able to load them so that you'll get the proper reports and see the names of the functions. And if the migration tool needs to repull an entire calc column because it's depending on a plugin, it'll actually get the proper values. You will have to talk to your plugin vendors to make sure that they have a version that's compatible. If they have a server compatible plugin, they should work with the command line tools, but how they detect if they're running on server may or may not work with what the command line tools are reporting because they've never seen this before. And this is one reason why you have to install server to get the command line tools right now. To add in the plugin support, there's a lot more verifications being done by the operating systems. So we really can't make a standalone command line tool that you can just drag and put into a folder and run it. It really has to have an installer to hook into the operating systems properly and set up all the certificates. In the future, we probably will create standalone installers for all three command line tools at once. But at this point, we have to get more certificates made, and it's a lot of paperwork, and on Windows, it's really kind of painful to get code signing done easily. So,
All right.
also, I guess there was a version about whether we're going to be doing ARM version of Mac FileMaker on Windows. We're waiting for the latest version of the Visual Studio to get stabilized, and we're having to make a lot of changes to because they're being a lot more strict and API calls that they're removing and stuff like that. So it's taking a while for us to get things up to date with the latest versions of Visual Studio. So once we can get it to compile on the most recent version, then maybe we'll do an ARM version of it.
Well, thank you, Clay, Rick, and Vince for joining me today. And please do join the Richard Carlton live stream later today, where Rick and Vince and I don't know, maybe Clay will be joining for even more Q&A. And just as we wrap up, I will share the word cloud from our final poll. What new FileMaker feature will you most benefit from? I think AI is still a winner, but go to list of records and the JSON improvements also both very popular and too many to say. And also just want to share that we are very excited that more than a third of you are planning to install FileMaker Server 2025 in production in the next 4 weeks. So we hope that you do and that you benefit from it. Thank you again for joining us. I hope to see you in about 2 weeks for our special late APAC extended Q&A with the product team, the Claris team, on July 24th. Bye, everyone.